Okay guys, this is video 2 on what to do with Sprue. Hey, rhymes. Kind of. So, we've all run out of paints and glues and things like that. We've all finished our miniatures, obviously. I mean, yeah, we've only ever got a few miniatures that need painting. We don't hoard them. Ever. So, what we do have left is Sprue, which we normally chuck away. But, I think this stuff is great for basing. So you could put it in a meat grinder, like in a Kenwood Chef kind of meat grinder. Not a blender, a meat grinder. Like so. One of these. Or you could just clip them up. So get some trusty clippers and start chipping away. So, although it does look like chocolate and I am quite tempted to try it, that's not chocolate. So if you start clipping these bits up, preferably over something so it doesn't ping around and then you spend the next 6 years trying to look for parts. I will ping it in the pot. You start chipping these up nicely. And this is when it goes flying on camera. So you just clip away in your pot, little storage container, whatever you want to use. Or you can use the meat grinder, which is so much easier. If you use something with a blade, not shears, an actual blade, like a food processor, a blender, it will just destroy the blades. So that's why the meat grinder is fantastic. And so much better for time saving. So this stuff here, if you lay it out and glue it on your bases, ideally next to ruins and things like that. Let's zoom in. And paint it all up. Believe it or not, that actually looks like rubble without using things like cork. Now you can use cork as rubble, and that's brilliant, not a problem, but that costs money. With Sprue, we chuck away. And that's just as good. I mean, cork does look more like concrete possibly, and this looks more like bricks, stonework, things like that. But you can chop those Sprue to any size you want. Now, this stuff here would take a while to glue in place, so it's probably best to pour some PVA glue and just heap it down. But it does paint just as well as a miniature because, fun enough, it's Sprue, and you can make whatever size you want. If you use stones, for example, it's far too heavy if you had a large scale piece, so this stuff is fantastic. So I'll endeavour to stick it to a base, and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so I've stuck a load to this base here on a Star Wars Legion model. So, yeah, it looks a bit like a ruined building, something like that. And I've got some finer pieces. Let's see if I can zoom out. Some finer pieces here that I'm going to stick on this guy's base. So basically what I'm going to do is a bit of super glue. You can use PVA glue if you like. And I know they say ideally stick stuff at the back of a base, because then it looks like you're framing the base, and if you stick it at the front, you know, it's kind of hiding the model. But that's what I want. I want this guy to just like burst through a wall. So later on I will make up a wall section and you just keep adding little drops of, and this is super glue. This isn't plastic glue. I don't want this stuff to melt, you know. I'm just going to stick this on willy-nilly, and just looks like he's burst through a wall. Now if you just want to build up some height on a model, you know, put this stuff down, yeah, that's pretty cool. Just a bit of texture. You know, I mean, it looks like a bit of rubble, fine, not a problem. This could look a bit too high, possibly. And what I do with my Star Wars Legion stuff is I'm painting Endor, and there's not many. I suppose there is a few buildings on the forest moon of Endor, and I could do that. But there is a lot of rocks, so this stuff is fantastic for putting over bits of sprue. So with an older brush, and there's a dog barking in the background, which is useful. I'm going to scoop a load of this stuff, make sure your super glue is fully gone off, or you're just going to wreck a brush, and just push it in there. So this will now look more like rocks, because this will take out the rougher edges. I mean, put a good dollop on there. Really work it in. And this will look more like rocks than rubble. So it's a good way of adding some height, and it doesn't have to look like a building's been destroyed, because sometimes, like Endor, I'm sure there is a few ruined buildings on Endor, don't get me wrong, because it's a real place, right? That's where I'm going for my next holidays, the forest moon of Endor. But they are a lot more rocks than there are buildings, so I'm going to push this stuff in, and when it dries, it looks like rocks. So you can go with the whole ruined building thing, that's not a problem. But I'm just going to show you the two things I use it for. And that Terminator for 30k, it really does look like he's busting through a wall. So making it look like a ruined building be fantastic. So just like that. So when it dries, it'll look a bit nicer, and I will dry brush it. And obviously when I do my Endor base, I'll put leaves and flock and ferns, all sorts. But that's the kind of thing you can do. So you can do the whole bust through a building, and it's great because it's got loads of sharp edges, so you can really make it pop if you wanted to, or just paint it like some basic greys, whatever the colour of the building is that he's barged through, that's fine. But with the edge, you know, being so sharp, jagged, you can really put some crazy colours in there, and that's great. So imagine having a large base and putting down like an old bit of this sprue and some rubble next to it, because a lot of this on a flat piece of terrain with some basic flat flock next to it looks, you know, a bit sad. It looks like it's out of place, like a street sweeper's come in and picked up all the rubble left from the building and just left this behind. You know, it's not likely a building being that destroyed will leave quite a lot of rubble like this on a base. Or, you know, if you've got any leftovers from like the Sector Mechanicus terrain like this, fantastic, love this. Put it on a flat base and then put this stuff next to it. It looks far more realistic than just leaving it on its own. So that's the two things that I like to do with ruined sprue. So if you didn't catch what this is one of Games Workshop's Citadel texture range. It basically looks, if you put it on a flat surface, it can look like just concrete. Or putting it on a pile of sprue, it can really look like rocks and add some height to your models. So get rid of those flat bases and get some fat bases. That's right. That should be a logo. I don't know. Well, thank you very much for watching, guys. Another short video on things to do with sprue. Please hit the like button. See you again.